Going on this week's episode from the Boeville Newtown? Well, it's right over here. Stand by and we'll get into what's happening this week. Welcome to the beginnings of episode 46 for 2022. It happens to be, December 26th of 2022, and this will be the last episode for the year. I've got a couple of things that I want to touch on real quick, and then we'll go from there. First, First and foremost is it was a great Christmas. Hopefully everybody else had a good Christmas or holiday, depending on how you celebrate, whether it would be Kwanzaa or Hanukkah or Christmas, or if you don't celebrate at all. You know, to each his own. That's all well and good. First things first. Start off with some odd stuff, and then I'm going to get into some other things. The first thing is the other day when I did my episode 45, I noticed something interesting with Filmora, and apparently it's caused quite an uproar within the YouTube editing community, and that has to do with those of us that have been, I guess the way to put it, lifetime subscribers since like Filmora 7, which would have been probably back in 2016, 15, 16, somewhere in that area. When I went from using the iPad, or actually I was still using the iPad, but I wasn't happy with the editing software that I was using at the time, and I found Filmora, and for like maybe the first year or two, I went ahead and just paid the yearly. And then I got to the point, I'm like, I really like this. This is really nice. This is really easy to use. And I went ahead and got the lifetime subscription. Well, apparently, with the newest version that is coming out, which is Filmora 12, those of us that have subscribed or had the lifetime license are no longer privy to those upgrades, which is not how things were originally put out. So, this may be the last episode that gets edited with Filmora Wondershare, unless things change. I don't know. I don't know how that's going to go, but if you happen to be using Filmora, just keep your eyes open, because if you did do the lifetime subscription back in the day, you're no longer going to be able to go from Filmora 11 up to 12. You're going to have to pay extra for it, I guess, unless, like I said, something changes, and that is where I'm going to leave that. And I know that there's other editing software out there, and I know there's some free stuff out there, so I'm going to start looking around and seeing what's there. That's one thing. The other thing is that on to bigger and better things, I guess. Still not sure what's up with this PC. I'm beginning to understand more and more what is happening with it, doing some research online, and I think what it really boils down to is, and this is typical, the machine that I'm using, it's a hand-me-down. My stepfather-in-law had built this thing years ago, and when he passed away, I inherited it because I needed another PC. I needed something beefier, which at the time, now you have to remember, it's probably been 3 years. We're pushing that. Anyway, one of the things I'm finding out is, a couple of different things here. Number one, this is not, as software has changed and I've added more cameras, I'm taxing the CPU and the RAM on this thing to the point where it can't handle it. And that was, I think, my issue, obviously, when I did the end of the 500 subscriber contest live stream, and actually when I did the holiday live stream, it was still a problem. Um, and I'm understanding that this thing, like I said, may not be up to the task anymore. Um, and with that being said, I'm probably going to be looking to see what I can do to either upgrade it, which I don't think is possible to get it to where it really needs to be. Looking at OBS specifically, they're really pushing for anything over 16 gig of RAM, and this thing can only go up to 16 gig. In actuality, you're probably better off doing 32 or better, obviously. So this thing just is not up to the task. I'm going to continue to use it. I'm going to see what I can do in the meantime to clean things up a little bit and see if I can get it to do streams without causing myself too much headache. But regardless, that's where we are at the moment. Now, speaking of live streams, my daughter for Christmas decided to surprise the living heck out of me. And I'm going to try to, I don't know if I can swing over enough or not, but it doesn't really matter. I'll just bring it into view. I now have I now have a standalone mic, and if now it's not muted, so it'll actually sit here and change colors, and if I mute it, it turns itself off. So I've got that, and I've got myself a set of headphones to go along with it. This is a HyperX set. It's actually really, really nice. I was messing with it last night. I actually haven't started a stream yet with it, but it's rather nice from what I've been able to play with so far. I can't wait to actually try and do a live stream and see what happens with that. But there is one other thing, and of course people are going to sit here and laugh and so on and so forth, but actually before I get into one of the things that I was just working on, yes, in the background you can see over here is the 3D printer, and the back of it is off. I figured out what I did. I just haven't had I just haven't had the nerve to go in and start playing with it. I was actually reading again online and found out that I may have actually hit a button that I wasn't supposed to, and it wiped out the internal memory, which is the reason why it was flashing at me and the display doesn't give me any type of information anymore. Basically, what they call it is turning it into a brick. So what I have to do, and I've already downloaded the software, I just have to basically reflash it to get the memory card with the software back on there, and then I'll be able to use it. So like I said, I just haven't gotten up the nerve to go in there and start trying to reflash the memory card. So anyway, one of the things that I was working on, and it happens to be on my other computer, my older computer, because the software that I use doesn't work on the newer stuff, so I'm going to try to swing over here a little bit, and we're going to try to do something that I know you're not supposed to do. We're going to try to zoom in here a little bit. All right, now hopefully, and I can't really see whether it's showing up or not. Sorry if I shake the camera, but, and of course with the light, I'm going to have to turn the light off. Let's see if that works any better. That did not work any better. Okay, well, all right. Well, let me see if I can. There we go. Now we're getting someplace. All right, let me back this out a little bit. There we go. All right, what am I working on here? Well, I actually went over to Micromark, and I was looking at their car card boxes. Now, if you remember correctly, one of the projects that I did, I think it may have been earlier this year or last year, is I made my own car card boxes out of some scrap cardboard. They're working, But one of the things I noticed is that I cut the fronts of them too much, and every time I'm back there, my shirt kind of catches them and the cards go everywhere. So I decided, since I had extra wood from the backdrops, that 1/4 inch underlayment would be perfect to build my own card boxes. Now, there's a reason why I want to build my own versus buying them. Number one, like I said, I've got extra wood. Um, so that will be nice. The other reason is I've got it with the hidden yards and a couple other spots. They're custom boxes. In other words, they're not the normal three boxes or 6 boxes or 8 boxes, 9 boxes, whatever. I think Micromark, they'd sell them in 3, 6, or 9. That's fine. That would cover some of my stuff, but it doesn't cover Boeville yard, and it also doesn't cover, like I said, the hidden yards. So I was playing around with Vizio, as you can see here, and this is the actual card boxes. Pardon me a minute. Um, and what I've done is, knowing that my uh, underlayment is 1/4 inch, I laid out these specifically for that. Now the boxes are the same width as what Micromark has, so they're 2 3/8 inches wide, the interior part, which is between these lines. So this here is 2 3/8 inches. Now, there's 1 or 2 spots where I only needed a 2 box and not a 3. So if you notice here, I've got a 2 box, which would mean that the whole thing is going to be 5.5 inches wide. That would be the back, the bottom, and the front. The front is going to be 2 inches high. The back is going to be 4 inches high. Now, my 3 box holder is going to be a total of 8 1/8 inches. The 6 box would be 16 inches, and then I've also got one in here for an 8 box, which would be 21 1/4 inches, front, back, bottom. Now, the other thing is I also wanted to build some train boxes. Now, what are the train boxes? Those are the boxes that are used for the Boeville station, and also over top of the hidden yards when I'm actually building the trains. Those are train boxes at the top. So again, here we go. We've got the train boxes are a little bit wider. I made them 3 inches wide because those card holders are wider than the cards themselves, which obviously makes sense. So each one of the train boxes is going to be 3 inches wide. So I'm going to build a couple of 2 boxes, which are going to end up being 6 3/4, and a couple of 3s, which will be 10 inches from side to side. That includes the 1/4 inch that I need for the sides. And of course, now the inserts, they're going to be 2 inches high and 2 inches wide. So my boxes aren't going to be the same dimensions as what Micromark has got. Like I said, this is all custom. So that is the plan. I'm going to stop here for a minute, and we'll go into some other things. Okay, so actually when I start building these things, I'll go a little bit more in depth. It's been a little too cold to go upstairs and cut wood, at least to do what I need to do with these. It's a lot of cutting, and I don't want to necessarily do that down here. It was one thing to do a couple of little minor cuts that I had to do to make to work on the bridge area, which I'm still working on. But I did want to bring up one other thing. As you know, in episode 45, I mentioned that I blew up one of my wireless or tethered throttles. Not sure exactly what I did to it, but it's outputting 18 volts all the time. I haven't really dug into it. What I did decide to do is I just went out and bought another one. They're cheap enough. I just went and bought another one. So that should be here tomorrow, which would be Tuesday. I also wanted to mention, before I go too much further, I've had some new subscribers. over the last couple of months. 4K HD rail fan just went ahead and subscribed today, actually, this morning. Let's see, who else? Legend Driver C subscribed to me. That was back on December the 13th. Let's see, who else is in here? Just going down my list of, or at least through email, I've got PNW Railroad subscribed to me back on the 1st. Let's see who else we've got in here. Instead of trying to do this through the new subs, I'm just doing it through here. So I think that takes care of all the subs. Now I do want to mention that obviously I really appreciate all the support from all the subscribers. There may be some other changes that are coming. As you know, I am a member of Patreon. I've got that. I've got a Teespring store, which we also use for Sidetrack Sunday. That is something that we've got set up. So if there is something Sidetrack Sunday related, then we can go ahead and we'll get that, and that money will actually go back towards Sidetrack Sunday and our holiday show for 2023, or going forward. So with that, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop this video here. I know I'm already like 11 minutes in, but I do have some other things that I want to work on. I'm actually in the process, like I said again, if the weather warms up enough that I can actually get upstairs and cut some wood. I've got that nice piece of masonite that I bought that originally I was going to use as a backdrop. Well, that's going to get repurposed as for my control panels for my block switches. Which I went ahead and modified the two that are on the front for block 3 and for block 2, but I need to add another set of switches to those for the Wykert Hill, or the Wykert Industrial Switcher. There's actually going to be 4 DPDTs now on those panels because I needed to have some isolation when I want to run that locomotive in and out of the yard to be able to get over to Newtown Station. And it's boxcar that is on the back side of that. So I'm going to use the switcher to be able to switch that out instead of using the main line switchers. So to do that, I have to modify things a little bit, and I've already got a piece of paper down here with the dimensions of what that piece of masonite is going to look like as well. So I've got that, and I've got to, like I said, I just have to get upstairs and cut I'm actually going to cut 3 panels because I'm also going to fix the one that's on the back side for block 1. Mainly because I think that may have been part of my issue, how I blew up that one power supply, or that one tethered throttle. I think I may have had a short, and at the time I think I had too big of a fuse on the track protection, and it came back through and blew the power supply, or blew that tethered throttle up. So like I said, there's nothing obvious as to what's going on. It's just the fact that as soon as you turn it on, it's pumping 18 volts, but I don't think it's passing any current. So something component wise went haywire in there, and yeah, I could probably fix it. I could probably get the parts, but I'm not sure what went wrong. It's actually sitting back on the workbench. If I get 5 minutes, I'll go ahead and I'll take a look at it and see if I can figure it out. If I can't, it is what it is. So with that, I'm going to stop here for a few minutes, and once I get into some other things, we'll go from there. So we'll be back. All right, folks. Well, I have a mail call. I know what this is. I'm hoping it's what I think it is, because I just got finished redoing the layout for the Wykert Industrial Switcher so that I can run it on the main line, and I have the replacement for the one that blew up. Still not exactly sure what I did to it, but I'm gonna have to go ahead and make the modifications to this thing, get it set up, and we'll be good to go. So we've got parts. Alright folks, well, I just got finished cutting a whole bunch of lumber, as you can see here on the table. I did run into one little issue, and that is the fact that I somehow or other did not cut 2 of my 3/4 inch ones, so I need to go ahead and do that, but I can do that down here. I just didn't want to create the mess of cutting some of the bigger lumber down here. So, what you're looking at least in the back, these are all car card boxes. These are all the inserts that will go in between. So in other words, once the box is built, that's the dividers. But if you notice out front here, we've got some angle cuts and some other wood. These will become shuffle shelves. What do I mean by that? Well, I'm going to try and lay one of these out here a minute and kind of show you what I'm talking about. And what this will become is that creates the shelf, and that will be the back of the shelf. And that will be where you can put the car cards when you're trying to shuffle things. In other words, when you have a train that comes in or have whatever, you're trying to break it down, manipulate it, whatever, you have some place to do that. Now, 2 of these are on the short side, and one of these is a little bit longer. This one here will be the one for Boeville Yard. These 2 will be for Weigert Industrial and the Atlantic Copper and Brass and RBC Distribution. So, I think the next step is for me to start putting these things together, and I'm going to kind of show you how we're going to do that. So give me a minute to get set up and we'll be back. You know, coulda, woulda, shoulda, best laid plans go astray. Well, I've spent the last, I don't know, probably half hour, 45 minutes. I went ahead and of course I probably picked the hardest one to fool with first. That's notwithstanding. I found out a couple things. First off, because of the fact that I made my own car cards, they're a little wider than what Micromark has. Not by much, maybe 1/8 of an inch. And I ran into something else that I hadn't thought about, and that was the fact that when I cut the bottom of this thing, I cut it to the same length as the front and the back, which meant that the sides weren't enclosed. You would have seen the sides, which is not what I wanted. So I took, I think it was like 3/8 of an inch off the side, off the bottom of the board, off the bottom board. I'm going to kind of go down here for a minute and show you what exactly it is that I've been messing with. Now, here's the problem. Like I said, the first thing is the fact that my car cards are a little bigger than what Micromark has. That's first problem. Second problem, this is supposed to be an 8-card box, which it is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Wonderful. This box is actually wider than the rest of them. Okay, no big deal. I can fool with that. I had marks all over this freaking board, and that's the reason why there is now blue painter's tape holding everything together so I could figure out what the spacing really needs to be without marking up the board constantly. I think what I'm actually going to do, and all I did so far, really in reality, is I nailed the side pieces into the bottom board. The bottom board's a 3/4 inch piece. It's the same wood that I actually used. I'm trying to think what I used that board for now, because I can't remember. Oh, I think board for it in the past. Anyway, I used it for something. It was actually 3 inches wide. I cut it down to 2 inches, so that way all the interior pieces, or all the boxes, are basically 2 inches deep. And they're also 2 inches high. So the center pieces here are 2 by 2s, 2 inch by 2 inch. Anyway, the end pieces obviously are 2 3/4 inches because they needed to be able to go into the bottom board. This is a lot different, not a lot different, but this is a little different than what Micromark did. They did the dovetails and all that other wonderful. I'm not into all that. Um, so what I'm going to do with this, thinking about it a little bit more, I'm actually going to take the tape off and I'm going to put the front on, which is going to get nailed just like the back did to that board underneath, the bottom board, as I'm calling it. And I'm just going to put the inserts in using the widest car card that I've got, which right now is a it's like 2 3/8, which is exactly what these boxes are supposed to be. They're supposed to be 2 3/8 inches apart. But if I do that, then it's too tight. So I got to go a little bit wider than that. But I think reality, like I said here, is we're going to put the front on to this box, and then I'm just going to come back in and I'm going to glue the interior boards in, using my one car card as a guide, and I'm just going to work from either end, and the one in the middle is probably going to be a little bit, or the two in the middle are probably going to be a little bit wider than what they need to be. One of the other things I'm doing here, because I was afraid I was going to split the wood, is I got a real fine drill bit. I'm using the same nails that I used for putting the backdrop up. I forgot what the heck these are. These are 1.5 ounce 1.5 ounce linoleum nails. They're brass nails, basically. They're brass tacks. So I'm going to go ahead and tack this thing down. I'll show you what I've got from there, and then we'll go into the interior portion of this thing, and maybe we'll see what we get at the end. Okay, I know I didn't film any of that because of the fact that that's the first time I think I've ever used a glue gun. And let's put it this way, that was an exercise in uniqueness, to say the least. But there we go. There is our 8-box car card holder. And what did I do with it? All right, there's the card, and it slides right in to each one of these, no problem. I can pull it back out. This one here is a little tight, but that's okay. I think I'm going to need to trim this one anyway a little bit, but otherwise, yeah, I'm quite happy with that. I do realize that I probably ought to maybe glue the ends on, but maybe not. Homemade car holder, and it certainly looks a lot better than the postal boxes that I was using, or the other cardboard that I was using. So there you go. That's for Boeville yard. So the next thing will be to actually obviously label up the front and mount the thing over at Boeville. I'm sorry I walked away. I realized in the process of me filming this thing, my painter's tape decided to take a roll. But there we go. So there's one down, and I've got a whole bunch more to do. So I'm going to hop to it, and what I might do is I might actually show how I do one of the smaller ones, which I think is going to be a little easier than what this one's been, but you all get the gist. Okay, so after all the fun that I had with the 8-box, we're going to switch gears here for a second, and we're going to do one of the smaller boxes. This one here is actually going to be for the cabooses, or the caboose. I know that's a point of contention. So this is only a 2-box, and obviously Micromark does not make anything smaller than a 3. Their sizes are 3, 5, or 3 and 6, or something like that. To be honest, I really don't know. Only thing I know is for what I'm trying to do here, the size of the boxes that they had wouldn't have worked. So what I've done here, to kind of go over exactly what it is we've got, I've cut down the underlayment, that is the back and the front, and also the interior and the sides. The base is a piece of particle board or MDF. In some cases, in other cases, it's actually the boards that I used when I built the drawer system under Harrisburg and Richmond. So because of that, this is 3/4 of an inch, which means that the sides have to be higher than what the interiors are. The interior squares are 2 inches by 2 inches. The exterior is 2 inches by 2 3/4 inches. So that gets us above, when I put it together, it gets us above where it needs to be. Now, how does this go together? Well, I'm about to show you that because that's what I'm going to do. So first things first here is I need to make sure, and that's kind of what I was doing here, is I was kind of lining up where this bottom board belongs in relation to the sides, because I want the front and the back to cover the sides. Just makes it look a little bit better. So I'm going to try and slide this off the edge of the table here for a minute, and without messing it up, and I did. Of course, nothing can be easy, especially when you're doing this. Alright, so it looks like I've got this lined back up. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to clamp the board down because I need to turn it over so I can drill into it. Now, why are you drilling into the board if you're going to use nails? Well, there's a reason for that. And that reason is basically, and I'm just double checking my measurement here, and we look good. Alright, so the reason why I'm screwing or drilling into this first is to give myself a little bit of, I guess, confidence that I'm not going to split the wood. So we're going to go ahead and we're just going to pop up. There it goes. Alright. Now if you notice, I did not go in to that board the only thing I want to do is get it to a point where I can get a nail started. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tack that in. Alright, so that's one side. And that feels pretty good. So before I remove the clamp, we're going to go ahead and do the same thing on the opposing side here. And that one there went in a lot quicker. Go figure. Must have been a knot hole or something. Okay. And then we'll tack that in. I can remove the clamp. Now, we've got our back and our base. Now I can put, I think what I actually did on the other one is I may have put the sides on first. So we'll do the same thing here. We'll go ahead and we'll get one of the sides on. That looks pretty good. And no rocket science here. The only thing I'm doing is just I want to get one in and get one started, and then I can come back and hit the other one. Of course, because this isn't level, I'll have to go off the edge just a little bit. There we go. So there's one. And then we'll do same thing over here. Now, some people, of course, would be like, why are you even bothering to build your own when you can buy them? You're right, I could. But like I said, because of the applications that I've got going on here, especially with the two hidden yards, especially with the two hidden yards, there isn't enough space to put a full I didn't don't have the room because of the way things are laid out back there to go ahead and use the ones that were pre-made. Now, granted, I probably could have bought them and modified them and so on and so forth, but the reality is, I just figured that this would be easier. It's a bit more of a pain in the butt, but I figured it'd be easier because now I've got something that's truly mine. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to put the front on and get that kind of lined up on here. Now, the other thing here is too, I could use glue. I get it. In fact, when I do the interior ones, they do get glued. In fact, they get hot glued. That's how I did the ones for the 8s. And of course, my wonderful cutting skills, I just realized. My wonderful cutting skills that this is not completely square, which it is what it is. There's the basic box. So what's next? Well, considering the fact, like I said, that this is a this here is one of the, I'm trying to remember, I think that this is supposed to be, I thought that this was supposed to be a caboose box. Maybe it's not. All what I do know is it's only a 2 divider box. So I'm going to go ahead and pull out my, and I get a feeling that that's what this was. This one here is supposed to be one of the caboose boxes, which is fine. This is actually a little bit bigger than what it needs to be, I think. Maybe not. I'm just checking. Alright, that one fits pretty good there. That one fits pretty good there, so that's where that one needs to be. Oh well, I have no idea what I did with the pencil. And I forgot too, I've got a, I've actually got to plug the hot glue gun back in, but you get the idea. That's it. So, you know, like I said, I've got 2 card boxes. I've got a couple of 3 card, or I've actually got 4 3 card boxes. 2 of which will be for the hidden yards. The other 2 will be for out front here at Weichert Industrial and Atlantic Copper and Brass. And I've got 2 6 card boxes. Those will be back in the hidden yards. And then I've got what I call train boxes. Those are a little different. I'll talk about those after I build them, but I just wanted, since I went ahead and built the 8 box after I had all sorts of issues trying to get things lined up on it, I kind of figured I'd show you what one of the easier ones looks like, and well, there you go. And of course I just lost my little divider here, but that's okay. There you go. So I'll glue that in and we'll be good to go. Alright folks, I just built one of the six gang boxes and I didn't film any of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what I'm doing with this. I've got one of the wider cards here, and I'm doing this a little bit differently than what I did earlier in the video. I understand that, but that's okay. I found a better way. So basically what I'm doing is I'm lining it up and I'm making a little pencil mark on the box itself, and then I come back with the hot glue. And one of the things I'm finding with the hot glue is you do not have a lot of working time with this. This stuff is amazing. And the other thing is making sure that you get plenty on there, but don't overdo it. And that's been one of my other issues, is in some cases I've been overdoing it. And I end up with a mess, just like I just created inside this box. But that's okay, because once it dries, it kind of comes out fairly easy. And then what I'm doing is I take my square and kind of make sure that it's somewhat straight up and down, and that's it. So there's one of the card boxes, or one of the slots in this card box. This happens to be a 3 gang. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and mark the next one. And of course, before I glue anything, making sure the one that is in the center is going to be good, which it is. Come back with our hot glue. Just this stick of hot glue is almost out. That's all right, I've got more. There's more where that came from. Alright, and we get it lined up. And then we make sure that we're square. And that's it. Bada bing, bada boom. And I'm sorry if the light was flashing as my hands went in front of the camera. But that's it. Now I've got another, now I've got a 3-gang box. This one will be one of the ones that ends up in the back. Because of the fact that I've got 6-gang and 3-gang back here. So that's it. Alright, Track Gang, I've built all the boxes. I haven't installed them yet, but this video is already going on way too long. And I wanted to go over a couple of things real quick. I know early in the video I mentioned about Filmora or Wondershare Filmora, which has been my editing software of choice for the last probably 6 years or more. They have decided that they are going to, I don't know how to put it, and I'm not going to turn this last little segment into a rant. So basically, this will be the last video that is edited with Filmora. Starting next year, I'm going to be using a different software. I'm testing a few of them out. Mainly, I was actually looking at DaVinci Resolve. The problem is this camera and DaVinci don't get along. And somebody else had mentioned, well, you could just go ahead and find the codec and get it converted. Well, that's an extra step that I don't have time for. For right now, DaVinci Resolve is off the table unless I figure something else out with that. I had looked into a software called Kden Live, K-D-E-N Live, but I'm not real sure about that one. And I started playing around with another one last night called OpenShot. OpenShot is freeware. It's out there. It's somewhat limited as to what you can do. And as I was messing around with it last night, one of its downfalls is that if you start playing around with the transitions and things like that, it gets a little laggy. So I'm still playing around, still messing around. But if you have an editing software that you recommend that's freeware, because at this point, considering the fact that I've gotten shafted by Wondershare, that's kind of where I'm at. So with that being said, it is December the 29th. This video will come out on the 30th. Happy New Year, happy 2023. We'll see what happens in the new year. Obviously, I am going to try to put up a video that kind of outlines what I have planned for 23, because to be honest, I didn't hit anything, I think, for 2022. It is what it is. Hey, we had fun though, and that's all that matters. So you all know the deal. Wait for the highball. Green tracks ahead. Be safe. God bless, and we'll catch you next year.